Today we're talking about the most desired WWE Elite action figures from 2010 all the way up till 2026. Now what do I mean by most desired? What I mean by most desired is going to be the figures that people are excited for, and not just in the traditional sense, but every single year it seems like there is one figure that is coming down the pipeline that people are excited about. Maybe a new talent has debuted on WWE television, or maybe we're getting a first time in the line figure that everyone is excited and clamoring for. And so people are losing their minds. Maybe people have collected for a very long time, and this figure is going to fill a hole in the collection. And I'm not even going to include Ultimates in this video. We're going to be strictly talking about the WWE Elites from year to year. And maybe we could do an Ultimate Edition for maybe a later video we can do, you know, ever since the beginning. I think, did Ultimates start in 2019 or 2020? I think it was 2020 because I feel like they did the reveal for the Ultimates at the Mattel Center in Los Angeles or in California, if I'm not mistaken. Remember they had them just like on a display together, Ronda Rousey and Ultimate Warrior. But let's get into it, man. Today we're going to talk about the most desired figure from every single year, and we're starting things off with the first year ever, which is 2010. Now in 2010, of course, there were no figures. There were all pretty much just getting ready for it. They showed them at Toy Fair. They showed them at Comic-Con. There was, you know, a big deal heading into it. And for 2010, man, I think it's fair to say that Elite won the entire set, or just any figure overall. You could choose it, man. I think the excitement was out there. Everybody wanted these figures. You could say the entrance greats line, that was like a really big deal back then, man. You know, Triple H showing off those figures and everything. Everybody was excited for the Triple H. Everybody was excited for the Rey Mysterio. And you could say those figures, but I'm going to say all of Elite Series 1, or any figure you want to pick. Just having the Mattel WWE figures in hand and the excitement level that Jax left. And, you know, some people were pretty pissed off about that, man. A lot of people were not very excited for the Mattel figures, but it seems like 16 years later, they ended up winning the war. In 2011, we did see some epic figures. You know, it was a solid year overall. But I went with a couple picks here, and you can let me know what you think. But I went with the Defining Moments Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man. Both of these figures just kind of go together iconically. They go in the Defining Moments line. They both had cloth goods. They're both from a big moment. And I think that they kind of put the excitement level out there, man. There were a lot of great Legends figures released this year. But the Defining Moments, if you go back in the day, man, it was a big precedent. Everybody was excited for Defining Moments. And I think these two characters and these two in this line kind of went together, and everybody was excited overall for those. So I picked those for 2011. In 2012, we had one of the most iconic Elites, especially for this time that came out, and it seemed like everybody was super excited for it, man. I went with the Elite 12 Kane figure, man. This figure was so damn popular and so epic in its release that this figure was exciting for 3 or 4 years afterwards, man. This figure was very sought after until we got many re-releases after the fact. But Elite 12 Kane, I felt, was the best pick for this year. Everybody was excited to get that classic Kane like that, man. It came with the voice changer. You had the white iconic packaging. Probably one of the most iconic men-on card figures of all time is that Elite 12 Kane. And I remember back in 2017, there was a men-on card version, I think, for like, hey, this dude offered me $80, I think, and I almost bought it, but I ended up leaving it there. I think because I already had the figure loose, maybe, but it was a pretty epic deal that I turned down. But Elite 12 Kane is iconic. In 2013, there's really not a whole ton, and again, man, I want to know down in the comment section below if I miss, if I didn't get the right figure, or you disagreed, if you've been around the Mattel line since the beginning, I would love to know what you think. But I went with Elite 23 Undertaker and Macho King. I think that both of those figures coming in the same set, a lot of people were excited about those. They were really, really sought after, and there was some good figures from this particular year, but I felt like in the main line specifically too. And not that we're only counting the main line. For whatever reason, I feel like these were pretty iconic. You know, we got a re-release of that Undertaker later on that everybody loved, and we've even seen other re-releases of that Undertaker in particular. And not that it's the greatest figure ever looking back on it. You know, I was never a huge fan of this figure. People loved this figure, and you can let me know what you think. In 2014, I went with Elite 30 Batista, man. This one, it may be a weird pick, but people are pretty simple, man. They like toyetic figures. People love toyetic figures, especially of legends like Batista, and this is the more updated Batista back tattoo. They even had two packaging variants, where one was facing forward and one was showing the back tattoo in its entirety. Pretty damn cool, and I actually love this figure. I think it's very, very underrated. It's a very plain gear, but it makes up for it with all that damn tattoo deco you get. So in 2014, I went with Batista. 2015, we're going back to the Defining Moments line, man, and one of the best Defining Moments figures ever. I went with the Crow Sting Defining Moments figure. This was the Sting figure. This is the best Sting arguably, I would say, the best Sting figure that Mattel's ever made. You got that cloth entrance coat, you get the bat, you get the iconic face paint. This is an incredible figure, and not that we didn't get some other damn good Sting figures from Mattel before he went to AEW. It's like, this one is just the Sting, man. People love this Sting figure. I love this Sting figure. You love this Sting figure.
Jimmy King's all right by me. You love Jimmy King. I love Jimmy King. We're men, and we're not afraid to say that we love other men. I love you. Me too, man. Hit me, my turn!
It's damn good. In 2016, you have a couple things here, and I have to throw it out there. I have to put them both together because I think that in this time frame, man, everybody was so pumped for this, man. And the first one's going to be Elite 41 Finn Balor. Demon Finn Balor, man. Everybody was clamoring for this. I remember finding this set at Toys R Us back in the day, and this was excellent. Of course, we went on to get many Demon Finn Balors. Elite 46 was also very sought after, but Elite 41 was the opening Finn Balor Elite, and it was the Demon, and hell yeah, it was on the Daniel Bryan torso, and that wasn't very good, but my God, did that figure set the world on fire. I remember going to Big Lots later on that year, and I found like 6 of them for $10, and I bought the whole stack of figures, man. It was all of Elite 41 multiple times over. What a great surprise that was, man. Back in the day when you could get figures for way, way, way cheaper than today. And then another figure was Elite 47 AJ Styles. This figure, of course, encompassed his debut. This was the year of AJ Styles coming into WWE, which is unbelievable that it's already been 10 years. Makes you want to jump off a bridge. But Elite 47 AJ Styles, we've talked about it before. Phenomenal head sculpt. The rest of the figure, not the greatest, but this figure had to be restocked on Amazon over and over and over and over again, and that was the only way to get it, is you had to turn on the damn notification, so as soon as they went in stock, bang, you could get on there and order it. It was very sought after, and it took me a while to actually track this figure down, and I wasn't that excited for it in terms of the body, but having an AJ Styles Elite, everybody was over the moon about it, and, you know, it's pretty phenomenal in certain ways. In 2017, I went with 2 different figures, and you can tell me what you think. I went with the main event ring Goldberg. This was a huge deal. You know, you get the Goldberg Elite, but they got to suck you in, right? It's just like the modern day where they're going to sell you an Ultimate Edition figure that you really want, but you're going to have to buy the ring. It was the same thing back in the day, man, with that main event Raw ring. Everybody wanted that Goldberg figure, but it was the only way you could get it was doing that. But I did put that up there. A lot of people wanted that damn Goldberg, man. Everybody wanted that Goldberg figure. And then another defining moment's released this year, and it was Shinsuke Nakamura's first Elite, and that figure carried a lot of weight too, man. Everybody was looking everywhere, under every rock, trying to find that Shinsuke Nakamura, and I remember finding it at Toys R Us, of all places, and it was a glorious day, man. Glorious day to find Shinsuke Nakamura, but that figure was also very sought after. In 2018, I think we had a few different contenders here, and I'm going to give them all some love because I think all 3 of them were very sought after, but I went with the NXT Elite Aleister Black. Everybody and their mom was searching every Target store within a 50-mile radius trying to track down this Aleister Black figure. It looked iconic in the yellow and white packaging, the tattoo deco, the face sculpt, an excellent Elite to this day. I love this Aleister Black figure. I would give anything to have an updated Elite Aleister, an Ultimate Edition, but this Aleister Black figure was iconic and highly sought after. And then we got a couple entrance greats figures because 2 legends came back to the WWE with Legends contracts, and we got to see them on WWE television, and one of those was the entrance greats Kurt Angle figure, and the other was the entrance greats Jeff Hardy, which was a re-release pretty much. It was kind of a redo, repaint of his iconic canceled Elite 1 Jeff Hardy that made this figure astronomical, man. This figure was restocked over and over and over again, and I would love to know, you know, in Ringside Collectibles' entire database, I would love to know what the most selling Elite of all time is. This Jeff Hardy has to be in the top 10. I would love to know, you know, maybe I'll never know, but my God, that entrance greats Jeff Hardy was absolutely insane. In 2019, there were also a few different figures here, and I'm going to give them some love right here in this video. You can let me know what you think, but first of all, I did go with the Epic Moments return box set of Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff Hardy. This is just one of those iconic sets, man. The packaging was insane. It was one of those very memorable box sets that people remember fondly. Another one that was great that year was the San Diego Comic-Con Macho Man, the Slim Jim Macho. This is another very iconic figure. People still talk about this to this day. The packaging, the presentation, the jacket. He comes with effing accessories of Slim Jim packaging, son. What just an iconic figure pack. And then last but not least, I did go with the Undisputed Era 3-pack. I think that was one of the big reveals at Comic-Con that year. They had it in its own little box. And I think that was the first year that we started covering San Diego Comic-Con on the channel. I believe, maybe not. I'm not entirely sure. I think maybe 2018, but 2020, was this 2019? Yeah, 2019. What a damn good year of figures. In 2020, we did see the first ever Elite Fiend figure that had people losing their minds, man. Everybody and their mom wanted the Fiend figure, man. Elite 77 Fiend. Not that the hair was right or anything, but people didn't give a damn, man. They wanted that Fiend Elite, and I remember being so excited for this figure, and I did get one, and the shoulder was glued, and so it was awful. It was god-awful. Like, the whole figure was basically broken. I contacted Mattel, and they sent me... What did they send me? They sent me, like, a replacement. Maybe... I can't remember what they sent me to replace it, but it was not to equal value of that Fiend figure. I was very devastated. But we did get an Elite Fiend in 2020, and that figure was very sought after for obvious reasons because of the Fiend's debut, what he looked like in character. Everybody was making customs of it. It was a very crazy time. In 2021, we didn't have a whole ton of selections, but I went with Elite 84 Rhea Ripley. It was her debut Elite, and it was a very good figure, man. I remember in the first ever Women's Royal Rumble, to my knowledge, she came out and dominated. She was excellent in this Royal Rumble, and we finally got a Rhea Ripley Elite, and it was a great one. It posed well, and I remember it being one of my favorite Elites from that particular year. You know, it had interchangeable hands, it had double-jointed knees, there were some fun things about that figure, and I remember that Elite 84 Rhea Ripley very fondly, and I think that that was probably one of the more sought-after women's figures from that particular year, of course, and just overall. In 2022, we saw some fantastic figures, but easily the best and most sought-after Elite from this particular year was Elite 94 Mace. Now, for real though, I did go with the Elite 92 Chase Adam Cole, and the reason I say this is because everybody wanted the Adam Cole in the camo gear for years, man. We waited for years to match our Elite 72 Roddy Strong, to match our Undisputed Era, to match our Kyle O'Reilly, our Bobby Fish. We finally got it with the Adam Cole, and it was an excellent figure. What a fantastic figure. I love this figure. To this day, I have a whole section dedicated to Adam Cole, and I love Adam Cole, man. An absolute unit, and getting the camo attire everybody waited for years for, this was probably the most sought after in that particular year. If I'm wrong, you can let me know. In 2023, we did see some really epic figures, and I went with the Defining Moments Torn Pec Cody. I felt like this figure was incredible, and, you know, we did see the return of Cody Rhodes to WWE, so a lot of his figures were very sought after, but I think overall the Torn Pec Cody was the one that really changed the game, the one that had to be restocked many times over, the one that got a From the Vault re-release. I think they did this figure twice on re-release because it was so damn sought after and people loved it so much with the Torn Pec. So I went with Torn Pec Cody. Just an iconic figure. One of my favorite Mattels of all time. Absolute great figure, great attire, great match. Just a fantastic figure overall was that Elite Cody Torn Pec Defining Moments. In 2024, I went with the From the Vault Straight Edge Society re-release CM Punk Elite figure. You know, if you go way back in the day to the original ringside exclusive, that figure was also very sought after, but, you know, this was way back in 2010. It was either 2010 or 2011. I can't remember off the top of the dome, but this was a very high-selling figure. It was, you know, one of the most sought after for a long time. It was going for $100 plus loose. Not even mint on card, but even mint on card, it was going for $200 plus, maybe even more than that. Probably one of the more rarer figures in general, just because that figure released way back at the beginning of the Mattel WWE license and partnership. So getting a re-release of this, everybody was clamoring for this figure. A re-release, great re-release, and pretty much what the From the Vault is known for. Now in the From the Vault, you get figures that released 6 months ago. Then we go back to 2025, and I had a couple different ones here, but we'll give out some honorable mentions. I did go with the 2018 Jacob Fatu, or 2018, the Elite 118 Jacob Fatu. Of course, Jacob Fatu getting his first Elite. Everybody was excited for that, and it ended up being better than we possibly expected. However, it still is not quite what what we want. You know, you can go back to that Elite 104 Solo Sikoa sort of deal where, you know, we were kind of disappointed by the first version, but they haven't made any upgrades to Jacob Fatu yet. I also want to give a nod to the Invisible Cena. This is a great figure as well. Everybody was very excited because of the meme. This was one of the most viral WWE action figures in the modern day. ESPN talked about this figure. I mean, it was all over news coverage, and everybody was posting it. I mean, it was hilarious. It's fantastic, and I think it is fantastic, and it's sought after. Everybody was like, oh, I gotta have this. People that don't even collect were clamoring for this John Cena, so I did want to talk about that figure. And then I also wanted to talk about the WrestleMania Superstore John Cena exclusive. I witnessed this with my own eyes. People literally rushing like damn Jingle All the Way for Turbo Man. People were losing their minds trying to obtain this WrestleMania Superstore John Cena figure that ended up going to Walmart's. Now, this figure has cooled off significantly, but right when this figure came out, everybody was losing their minds and they really wanted their version of John Cena. But I would give it to probably one of those John Cenas, but Jacob Fatu also deserves a mention. And then in 2026, I am going to go with the Defining Moments Penta. This figure is, of course, highly sought after, and we're probably already looking at the best WWE Elite of the year already in 2026, and we're still in January, for the love of God. So that will just tell you how sought after this Penta is. Fantastic figure overall, but that is what I want to talk about. Actually, it's right here. Let me go ahead and grab it right there, but yeah, there it is. Just, oh my goodness. This figure is incredible, and I think it's safe to say this is, I don't know how they're going to beat this, but this is definitely the most sought-after figure of 2026, at least to my knowledge, and if something's going to change that, I don't know what figure it could possibly... What figure could they do that would trump the Penta figure? I mean, I don't know, but if you want to see a video about this with Ultimate Editions from every year, you can let me know, man, but I figured I'd get on here and talk about these sought-after figures, man, but that's pretty much going to wrap it up for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you think down below. If you agree or disagree with my picks, I'd like to know, but I'm getting the hell out. I'll see you guys next time. Have a blessed one, and I'll catch you guys later. And don't forget to pick up the Elite 94 mace.